So a few days ago, Hasan and Ethan Klein debated over their little beef and what has been going on in Israel and Palestine, and I decided to make this video just as a, I guess like a recap, at least like kind of collecting my thoughts about the debate now that it's over with, and it's been a few days now. We're not going to be going over everything they talked about. I already did a live reaction to the debate that I put on my channel. It's the one like right before this one, and it was a lot to sit through. Honestly, it burnt me out so much to the fact that I'm probably not going to put out any other videos this week. Like, I'm just burnt out. That, and I just had a really busy week. But let's actually talk about the debate itself. Now, the debate, if you could even call it that, was just a mess. And I don't understand how they thought this was going to go down. I don't know, like, it just, even from the start of it, it was such a mess, because when it started, we had Hasan basically try to lay some ground rules in a way, not in terms of like, here's how we need to conduct ourselves during the debate, but more so of like, hey, let's define Zionist, like what the term Zionist means, since we're talking about, Israel and Palestine, and due to the fact that Ethan tends to associate anti-Zionist talking points with just being anti-Semitic. Like, if you're anti-Zionist, he tends to believe you're anti-Semitic, and even though he doesn't say that outright, he does say that in his ways of criticizing people. Like, you'll hear people use anti-Zionist phrases, and it'll be like, well, that's anti-Semitic. Or he'll hear people's criticisms of Israel. He'll hear. God, I cannot talk today. He will hear people's criticisms of Israel and conflate that with anti-Semitism. And so that's why Hasan was kind of laying out the definition of the word Zionism, or at least trying to come to a conclusive, like a collaborative definition with Ethan, to lay the groundwork for Hasan later in the debate to be like, well, you say that all these claims are anti-Semitic, but really they're anti-Zionist. Like, you're just conflating the two, because you want to perceive these people that you disagree with as your enemies, and you feel like you're only comfortable being enemies with them if you try to portray them as being anti-Semitic. Like, he's trying to logic his way into being pro-Palestinian voices while also saying he's pro-Palestine himself by labeling them anti-Semitic, essentially. So what happened after that, after, this like intellectual sort of beginning of being like, hey, let's set up this definition so that we can expand on this later, Ethan decides to bring up drama. I don't even know what he started with. Maybe I'm going to try to bring up the debate. I want to see what he started out with, though. That's the only thing for me that I really want to check out. Did he have like a video? Okay.
And now explain what he means by...
That's enough of the dog chat. It's time. Welcome to the show, everybody. Hasan Piker.
Hello, Hasan Piker.
I think we should define what... Okay.
Sure. How was filming that content cop? I just have to know...
Oh, yeah, it started with the content cop. That's what it started with. I had to pull this up. But yeah, it started with the content cop. At least from what this is here. Define Zionism, and then Ethan asked what Hasan thinks of the content cop. So he brought up the content cop for some reason. Like, yes, Hasan was in it, but really that video was iDubbbz's whole video being like, hey, Ethan, like, I'm trying to tell you something. Like, it was iDubbbz's way of trying to get to Ethan in a way. In a way of being like, hey, we used to be friends and you're saying all this shit. And now there has been some more explanation of that. I mean, exploration, not explanation. There has been some more exploration of that feud. I know iDubbbz did a content deputy video, which I guess was like a follow-up. We're probably not going to get to that just because I don't have the time, really. But I really just want to have this focused on what's going on with this. But yeah, it immediately starts, and Hasan is like, let's define Zionism before we really even get into this debate about Israel. And Ethan's first talking point is, let's talk about Content Cop and how it's seemingly not doing well because of the dislikes. And like, whatever, who cares? It's like petty shit like that. And I remember in my video, my reaction video that we did like while the debate was live, I did like some predictions. I want to get to that part, but someone in the comments of my reaction video pointed out, they were just like, you got all your predictions correct. So I want to go back to that. All right. I wasn't proud of the audio quality on this one either, because I feel like, I don't know, I tried to listen back to it. I did very little editing with this, like barely any, honestly. But I realized halfway through, I was like, oh God, the start of this just isn't great at all. Go up on YouTube, I feel like I definitely need to get an obvious one. I think it's going to be a lot of... Alright, so I don't remember where that exactly started. So here are some predictions that I have going into this. One of them is, I think Ethan's going to try to blame Hasan for the CPS call and like the skulls and stuff like that. I think he's going to blame him. I think that's the very obvious one. I think it's going to be a lot of clip reacts in a way of like Ethan's gonna be like, hey, can you specify this for me because it sounds anti-Semitic, you know, stuff like that. On Hasan's side, I think he's mostly gonna try to stick to, you know, what's actually going on in Israel Palestine and just, instead of focusing on the beef, even though he might bring it up here and there, obviously, because there, you know, there's friends of his who was impacted by this who got banned because of Ethan's actions. But for the most part, I think he might try to stay to that. I think Destiny is definitely going to come up here at some point. Right now I'm a little iffy on if, you know, he's going to try to Sam Cedar Hasan, which so far, I mean, I think this is where it ends. That was the only part that I was really wrong about. There was a part of me that thought that there was a possibility that Ethan Klein was going to pull a Sam Cedar, like, oh my God, Sam Cedar, what a nightmare moment with Hasan and Destiny. But I think maybe he realized that if he did that, it would come off as him associating with Destiny. It would also come off as him being a coward and running away. Because with the Steven Crowder one, I don't think he took that seriously. But with this one, I do think he takes this drama of his seriously with Hasan. Of being like, yeah, I really hate this guy. So I don't think he was planning on doing that. I just thought there could have been a chance just because Ethan feels it would have been a gotcha in his eyes. I don't know. But it didn't end up happening. Honestly, I think this was worse. Him actually doing the debate and trying to argue against Hasan only to just show his incompetency live. It was insane. And like, not only were the topics childish to go afterwards, when we're talking about a conflict between these two creators that basically started when this, you know, latest round of Israel Palestine, like, you know, the ongoing conflict between the two groups that has been going on for decades at this point. Like, now that this news cycle started up with October 7th, this is what drove them apart. But Ethan wants to talk about content cop. He wants to talk about the Sabra hummus tier list. He wants to talk about the CPS, which I don't honestly think has anything to do with Hasan. I think it was just one random person who may have been in Hasan's community, maybe, but like there's no proof to decide that this came from anyone, especially when like there was no pro-Palestinian content creator who was actually like, yeah, you should call CPS on this dude. He talked about the bleach sword, which is incredibly stupid. He even in that debate, he was like, yeah, it's a swastika sword, but it's also not. That's it. Like, he recognized it wasn't a swastika, but he's also like, but I will say it is a swastika. And I guess his reasoning behind that is like, well, Hasan has openly joked about it being a swastika sword, but it's like, yeah, he also notices the shape of it, but he does realize it's not a swastika. Like, that's it. Like, he realizes it's not a swastika. But, like, it's all, with Ethan, it was all drama shit. It really was. The only thing that really wasn't, maybe, I'm trying to just look at that. I'm looking at, like, the chapters on, like, the debate video, and there's nothing directly from Ethan that seems to be all that serious. Like, conversations, like, part of the conversations that Ethan brings up. That's really all that serious. Maybe the only serious one is Bad and Banada, or maybe the inbred stuff, and even the Humani Teenager, but even those are like, they're weird stuff to bring up at this sort of time. Like, the only reason I even mentioned the Bad and Banada one being like a kind of serious one is because like, Bad and Banada is a bit of a freak, but even Hasan recognizes that. He just also recognizes that when it comes to his video essays where he's explaining crucial information, he is very smart and is very he's a good source to go to. It's just that Bad Empanada is also a weird little troll on top of that. That's it. But he does realize that he is knowledgeable on the issue. But like with the Yemeni teenager one, like that one's incredibly stupid because like even Fox News, they don't even call him a Houthi or a terrorist. They're just like, yeah, there was a belief that he was a Houthi before the interview. And even Hasan said even if he was, he still wouldn't have a problem with it. So like, I don't think that's the gotcha that they think it is. But Ethan's just like, he tries to like go for like some odd shit. Like, yeah, the kid called himself a soldier. Maybe he was just trying to seem cool because, you know, if you live in Yemen, then being part of the Houthis would probably seem cool as they are probably looked on as a resistance group that are trying to protect Yemeni people. So maybe he did that to just seem cool. He was just, that was the case, then he's lying. There's no proof. Like, he's not a part of the Houthi group. Like, that's it. And what was the other one I mentioned? Hasan using inbred, but again, he only brings up examples of him using it against like insane Israeli people, but at the same time he also has said that about like white supremacists here in the United States. So like, who cares? Like, you're just using the examples. Like, he calls a lot of people inbred, and you're just trying to make it seem like he only uses that for Israeli people. Like, that's just not the case. But like everything else is it's insane. Ethan Klein called Nelson Mandela a pacifist. Like, that's how insane we got with this. It just proved how insanely unknowledgeable Ethan Klein is on this issue. He even said that he would not look down, he would value Anne Frank less as a symbol if she were to take up arms against the Nazis. He literally said that. That's what he said. Hasan asked him if Anne Frank were to have, armed herself and would try to retaliate against the Nazis. He said she would be a less powerful symbol. It's insane. And if you want any more proof on his childish behavior that happened during this debate, well, here's one clip. And as the tweet lays out beforehand, Ethan thought Hasan would stutter when he asked him a question and just end up looking so stupid. And this happened repeatedly of Ethan just trying to mock Hasan with some of his not like his I don't know exactly what they're called, but like the way that Hasan speaks, he tried to mock him a bit in that way. And I guess he thought Hasan was gonna stutter or something, so he mocked that without realizing that Hasan didn't stutter.
But go on.
Have you read any of the other ones?
Yes.
Really? Which ones?
The book that I'm referencing is from the...
I think he genuinely thought he was going to like mess up his speech or something there. So he did that.
3 worlds.
Let's go back to this again. Oh, fucking Twitter, man. Garbage platform.
Go on.
What happens?
The book that I'm referencing from the Iron...
Like, it just seems so out of place. Why did he think that was a good thing? You could just tell he was just trying to force that out of there. Like, I don't know. Maybe there might be a case that just so happened to be one of his like Tourette's, but like, as someone who has watched Ethan for a long time, even as a fan of his, I never saw that one. I've never seen that one. Maybe it's a rarity. Maybe it's like finding a shiny Pokemon. You found the rare Tourette syndrome, like the tick that Ethan has. Oh my god. But fucking, this was like, I remember seeing that someone had a compilation of like the little outbursts that Ethan had during this entire thing. I want to find it just so we can really like look at it, honestly. But it was so embarrassing to watch in real time. It truly was. Because like, I don't understand how Hasan truly thought that this made... I don't understand how Ethan... I think I misspoke. I think I might have said Hasan. But I don't understand how Ethan can truly think that he actually looked good during this entire thing.
You don't know what I'm talking about?
Okay, this is a little compilation.
What? You don't know what I'm talking about?
What is?
What? Yeah, it was on the list. You're lying.
Yeah. I got a free Rolex hat from a friend of mine. I still wear it every now and then.
Yeah, and you're so... Oh, wow. Who knew?
What? Destiny?
What?
Hasan? I didn't bring up...
Alright, let's go back to this.
What? You don't know what I'm talking about?
What is?
What? Yeah, it was on the list. You're lying.
Yeah. I got a free Rolex hat from a friend of mine. I still wear it every now and then.
Yeah, and you're so. Oh wow, who knew?
What? Destiny?
What? What?
Ethan?
What?
I don't
What?
think I
What are you,
know.
Stone Cold Steve Austin? What?
I didn't bring up Destiny. You did.
By your authority, I will decide who's hallucinating. Hasan. Want to do propaganda? Remember?
Ethan.
Hasan. Please calm
Okay.
down. You're getting worked up.
I don't know why you're
Whoa.
behaving
whoa.
in such a childish manner. Ethan, I don't think you want to go down this route.
Really? Which ones?
The book that I'm referencing is from the Iron Wall.
All right, listen, it's 5 o'clock. Like I said, I have a family to go to. I have 3 kids and a wife.
Oh my
You know,
god.
You have a fucking cool ass race car bed to sleep in, and I hope you enjoy that.
Okay, man. Thank you. Have a good one. I hope this was productive. Dan, he needs you more than you need him. Stop babying this man, please. He needs you more than you need him.
Fucking, that was so funny. Fucking, the only reason, like, it was probably the funniest thing that Ethan said this entire debate. And honestly, the only reason I even found that so funny is it just like the Simpson fan in me just like went off, where I was just like, I understood that reference. Like, that's it. That was the closest he got, and it was just like, oh, it was funny for anyone who's seen The System, The Simpsons. That's it. It's like, I sleep in a cool race car bed. Where do you sleep? In a bed with my wife. Just so fucking stupid. But that's it. Like, that's how he betrayed himself this entire this entire debate. It's just, you know, doing fucking 4th grade insults. Just being like, oh, you're triggered. I mean, he didn't even say that, but we were getting to that point, I feel like. But who knows? Maybe we would have crossed this, because maybe we would have crossed that boundary at some point where he just sounded like a right-wing fucking like troll online. If we would, I mean, it went on for 5 hours. It was so fucking long. You think at some point he would have reached that, but I don't know. But like, just 4th grade fucking insults, man. That's how he betrayed himself. And and here's the thing with debates, especially on like online, especially with online debates like this. Nobody really wins, because with everyone, it's just team sports. It's just, well, I like this guy, so I think he won. Like, it's the same thing. I believe I talked about it at the end of my reaction video. It's just like, you know, Ethan's fans are going to think that he won. Hasan's fans are going to think that he won. Did Hasan win? I would say yeah. Yeah. And here's the thing, I'm a Hasan fan, so yeah, I would say that. But at the same time, I don't know how anybody who is like middle ground on this issue, like if you show this to a normal person who may know some knowledge on the issue just so they could really follow what was going on, if you were to sit them down, or even if they didn't have any knowledge, if you were to sit them down and you would say, who won this debate? A guy who tried to make this debate about the actual issues, like the actual real world issues that have impact on real people's lives, or this one dude making childish remarks who is doing stuff that is impacting real people's lives. Like, again, he and the ADL were able to get pro-Palestinian creators banned off of Twitch for like a month. That's a month worth of revenue that they could have gotten, but they weren't anymore because Ethan found their Sabra hummus tier list to be anti-Semitic. Fucking moron. And that really impacted their lives. But like, we're talking about a guy who is trying to focus this debate on a real world issue where like hundreds of thousands of people, tens of thousands of people have been massacred, and he's trying to talk about that issue. And then we have another guy being like, oh, I saw that video that you were on about me, didn't do so well. Like, it's just gross. It's just gross. Do you honestly think that a normal person, if they heard this, would honestly sign with Ethan? Even if they didn't know what the debate was about, do you honestly think that they would think that Ethan won with the way that he portrayed himself? He came off as a little child. And the only reason why there's people on the internet saying that he won is either A, they're Ethan fans, or B, they're acting like little children on the internet anyways. Like, it's always the most brain dead motherfucker who honestly thinks that Ethan Klein looked good coming out of this. And that's the thing too, is that when I was watching this debate, I was curious, because obviously if you see Hasan's chat, it's going to be pro Hasan. If you see Ethan's chat, it's going to be pro Ethan. There might be some stragglers in there who are like either hate watchers or outliers in their communities, but I decided to check out Asmongold's chat because I believe even at one point he was getting more views than Ethan or Hasan on this debate, but that started to change over time. But he was like getting up there in views alongside these two in terms of this debate, and he was live reacting to it as well. So I decided to check out his chat a bit. Now his chat, you know, I believe at the time it was like a followers only chat, so all you had to do was follow, so it's not a perfect representation of his commentary, but it was pretty 50-50. Honestly, at least from the small times that I got in there. Again, I could be wrong if, you know, the full chat got released, but like, who's gonna spend time looking through all that? But again, just through the times that I checked, it did seem like it was pretty even Stevens of people being like, Ethan's clearing this dude and Hasan is based, or like just Hasan is winning, or Ethan's making an ass of himself. Like, it seemed to be pretty 50-50 on who they thought looked better in this debate. And that should be embarrassing for Ethan. Like, that's the thing, is that, in my opinion, Asmongold's community being 50-50 says a lot more about Ethan's performance than Hasan, because I said this multiple times, even in that video, Asmongold's community and Asmongold himself are essentially the direct opposite of what Hasan and his community is, because Asmongold is like the top face of right-wing commentary on the platform now, and Hasan is the leftist version of that. You know, he's the top progressive. He's the top, like, progressive voice on the platform. So, of course, these two are going to be, you know, and so are their communities. They're going to be button heads. They're going to be on, you know, every side, like every other side on every different issue. So the fact that even people in that community seemingly were 50-50 with this debate, the fact that they weren't solely on Ethan's side, I think it really shows how he, you know, kind of betrayed himself. I think he betrayed himself as a bit of a fool, as someone who is very unqualified to talk about this, as someone who is so ego-driven and narcissistic that he just couldn't really talk about anything serious unless it directly affected him. Son of a bitch. Unless it directly affected him. Like, he could only talk about how this thing made him feel, about how this like Sabra hummus tier list, he felt like it was anti-Semitic, and here's the thing too, even with that, Hasan had nothing to do with. The only, like, the closest thing that he had in terms of association is that he was friends with these people, or that he knew them. Like, that's it. Like, he was basically trying to do guilty by association with Hasan. Like, Hasan had nothing to do with that, but he still decided to bring it up. Like, again, and here's the thing, Hasan has talked about it. It was around that time that he even started to be like he even started like going after Ethan in a way, because even before that, Hasan was defending Ethan. That's the thing. Hasan would regularly defend Ethan to his chat. He didn't know what Ethan was saying, but he viewed a lot of his viewers coming into his chat being like, oh, you won't believe what Ethan just said, as like a nonsense, like it was a nonsense topic that he wouldn't entertain because he didn't think it was a serious issue. And then Ethan was able to get people banned for being pro-Palestinian because he found this joke tier list to be anti-Semitic. And he realized that Ethan was just going off his goddamn rocker. So that's the thing, like he didn't even want this, like he wasn't fueling this beef through the early stages of it. Ethan was just losing his goddamn mind with trying to argue against the wall, and finally did something that made the wall realize what he was doing. So the wall started attacking, and then he couldn't handle the pressure and just spiraled deeper and deeper into his insanity. And it's just gross. It's just really, really gross. The way that Ethan Klein presented himself in this debate, I don't honestly think that anyone could say that he won. Like, I feel like you would be deluded if you did, or you're just such a pro-Zionist scumbag that you just had to make believe that your guy won. The guy that is essentially there to argue your points won the debate. Because even though Ethan Klein says he's not a Zionist, he uses a lot of Zionist talking points, does he? Or maybe he's just so Islamophobic that he just starts to agree with a lot of Zionists on certain issues. And that was another thing too, like, there was a whole section in there where essentially Ethan's whole argument was just that the reasons why Like the reason, the main reason, because seemingly there weren't any other reasons to, if you were to ask Ethan, the main reason why Jewish people, back during I think it was 1948 was the official year, the reason why a lot of them went to Israel was only because of anti-Semitism in their countries, like the countries that they lived in. That's seemingly to Ethan Klein the only issue into why they actually left. Not, that rise in anti-Semitism maybe being because of Israel's presence in the area. Maybe due to some attacks that Israel perpetrated to, really fearmonger and to having, Jewish people convinced that Israel would be safer. None of that. It was just pure anti-Semitism coming from the countries themselves. Because apparently to Ethan Klein, if you're Arab, then you're just like inherently anti-Semitic, which is an insanely Islamophobic thing to say. To think that like Arabs or, Muslim people are like inherently Islamophobic. Like to think that like Arabs are inherently anti-Semitic, like it's just a wild thing to say, and that's why there was a section of the debate where Hasan just starts screaming at him, calling him a racist. Like you may have seen that clip going around of Hasan just screaming at him because like, yeah, you're saying extremely racist shit. But to me, what really solidified Ethan's loss in this debate, the thing that really solidified to me the fact that Ethan Klein had really lost this debate fully was the fact that he called his wife a terrorist. Not the childish remarks, the fact that Ethan Klein called his wife a terrorist. Now, he could have said it in jest, like, oh, my wife's a terrorist. But like, oof. I don't know. Here's the thing. I don't even know if this really was in jest, like if this was just a joke. I think this was him I think he kind of trapped himself into a corner ideologically, because I think a part of him was thinking that since Hasan was essentially trying to bring up the point that like, okay, you say that like I shouldn't have interviewed this Yemeni teenager even if he was a Houthi because he was a terrorist, even though I believe the Houthis weren't even labeled as terrorists by the time that interview was supposed to happen. So like, what's even the problem then? But like, okay, if you have you have a problem with Hasan interviewing a terrorist, okay. So, but do you realize that just because the U.S. State Department declares someone to be a terrorist, that doesn't really mean anything, because like the IDF could be considered a terrorist organization because they have done even worse stuff than the Houthis, or at least like they've done stuff similar to the Houthis and other terrorist organizations. Like even Nelson Mandela was on like the terror watch list at one point. Do you think he was a terrorist? Because fucking Ethan Klein thinks he's a pacifist. But like, do you consider the idea, essentially what Hasan was trying to get across was like, well, the IDF could be considered a terrorist organization. And then Ethan essentially gave into that. He was like, yeah, they're a terrorist organization. And then Hasan asked, well, do you consider Hila a terrorist then? And he said no. But eventually he gave way to that and was like, yeah, my wife's a terrorist, which I don't even think Hasan was trying to like lure him into saying. I think Ethan was like, oh, well, since I call the IDF a terrorist organization, I should call my wife a terrorist because he thought Hasan would try to use that argument or something. I don't know. This was like a weird part of it, but to me, this really solidified that Ethan had kind of lost.
Did though? We don't know what
so he
what
could have
the
been
rape was for.
he could have been a vicious terrorist
What if he
monster.
killed
Is what you're
people?
saying.
Yeah. What if he killed people? Of course. If he killed people, of course
Ethan,
he would be worthy of being arrested.
Is Ramallah a part of Israeli territory?
I mean, it's complicated, right? It's under occupation. No, I don't think so, but it's under occupation, right?
Okay. So why was your wife in Ramallah?
Maybe are getting a terrorist that killed civilians. She
It's
sat in a
not
car.
complicated, Ethan.
She
It's
sat in a
not
car and
complicated
didn't
at
even
all.
leave it and never
Your
did
wife
it again.
participated in an illegal raid according to international human rights. That is the reality. Now, I understand.
Are you upset
the
if this
importance of
person
social
killed like
conditioning.
a
If she
child?
were-
Would you be upset if this
she were to
person
talk
they
about-
arrested like
if-
stabbed people? Like you
if
don't know what
she
you're
were
talking
to
about.
talk about how
Yeah, of course, like he doesn't know what this person was there for, but neither do you. And I guess neither does your wife, because she doesn't even mention it in that part that like in that clip that's been going around for like months now, where Hila Klein basically says like, yeah, I was on a IDF raid to get a terrorist in what Ethan called a terrorist city, and I believe she called it that too. But it's like, yeah, like, if it was a serious crime, do you not think she would have mentioned that? Like, okay, then what was the crime? You have direct information to the person who told you that information. Why don't you actually just like, hey, here's what he actually did according to my wife, which is another thing with this debate too. He literally tried to yell at Hasan for daring to call Hila his wife, because Ethan in his fucking rabid community honestly think by calling by Hasan calling Hila his wife, that's like a misogynistic thing to say. But he literally just says my wife. Does like they honestly think that calling someone that Ethan is married to his wife is misogynistic. That's how fucking brain broken his community is.
Okay, fine. My wife's a terrorist, bro. What the fuck? It's so boring.
Stop. Listen to my words. If she were to talk about
my
how
wife is a
fucked up that
terrorist.
as
Very
many former IDF vets have on breaking this.
Like, I think he literally thought that, like, I mean, that is kind of what Hasan's point is. He's like, okay, well, if you're comfortable with calling this Yemeni teenager a terrorist, then shouldn't you feel the same comfort with your wife? But that's the thing, is that Ethan could have easily gotten out of this, conversation, like at least this part of it, by just being like, okay, I get your point. The guy's not a terrorist. Like, I retract my statement. All you had to do was say that I don't view this Yemeni teenager as a terrorist. And you helped me get to that by pointing out that my wife would also be a terrorist by association. But no, he throws his wife under the bus and calls her a terrorist. That's how fucking insane this dude is. You didn't have to do that. Oh my god. But yeah, that's insane. I want to find the clip of where he gets mad at Hasan for calling Hila his wife. Oh god, I really want to find him getting mad about it. I want to see if someone has a clip. I guess not. Maybe there's like a chapter of it in here where he gets mad about it. I honestly want to see. No, I guess not. Maybe there's like a manuscript or something. I genuinely want to see the transcript. Here we go. Let's see. It would be at what the fuck? Oh my god. What's the... Okay, it's Control F. Oh my god. Okay, so this happened earlier than I thought it did. But yeah, there's like this insane part where Ethan gets mad at Hasan for referring to Hila as his wife.
Happening on October 7th. There's a clip of you when you first encounter that statement where you are actually understanding of my position until your wife stops you and says, that's inappropriate. You literally say, oh, he's saying the likelihood of rapes happening does not justify genocide, which you agree. A genocide is happening. Ever since then, though, months later, you still chose to use that.
Her name is Hila, by the way, Hasan. I don't know why you referred to her as my wife. I find that a little chauvinistic, frankly. You know who she is. You know her well. You've begged for Teddy Fresh from her many times. So, like, yeah, you know who she is.
Okay,
You've written her
Hila.
emails asking for clothing. Her name is Hila.
Mm-hmm. That's... I mean, yeah, that's
so.
fine.
Why don't you say that?
Okay.
Who goes? Oh, your wife? Like, she's not. She
A
has no-
normal
she's
fucking
just
per-
like,
I
oh.
wasn't... Can you respond to what I was saying?
A normal fucking person. A normal fucking person would refer to someone like that. Like, yeah, he could call her Hila, but like, that's also interchangeable with saying like her relation to you. Like, what, do you think I refer to my mom solely by her first name? No, I call her my mom. That's so insane. Or do you think like, yeah, sometimes I refer to my sister's boyfriend as her boyfriend. Or my uncle as my uncle. Like, that's not an insane thing to do. It's so fucking stupid that he actually got angry at that. And his chat did too. His community honestly got mad at Hasan saying that. Something that like normal people do and say. They fucking got mad at. Are they insane? Like, okay, the only reason you could actually get upset at her, like get upset at him for saying that, is if you weren't married. Like, are you guys not married at this point? I wouldn't be surprised if she divorces you, especially since you call her a terrorist later on. Like, that's the thing. What? Who the fuck gets mad at that? Like, if your friend got mad at you like if your friend was married and you went up to him and you asked him a question about their wife, and they got mad if you said, "Oh, you want to talk about my wife?" Like, oh, like say like they made cookies, and you're just like, "Hey, can you tell your wife that I really enjoyed those cookies that she made me?" And they were like, "Oh, my wife? She's my wife?" You would be like, are there problems happening at home or something? Like, it's such a weird thing to freak out about. It's such a, like, like, what? Do you think you come off as a feminist by saying that shit? It comes off as, like, extremely fucking, like, it comes off as, like, male feminist. Like, you know how, like, some comedians or some people like to make the joke of, like, the male feminist, the guy who's, like, it's like the Joe Rogan bit back before he became, like, a real fucking weirdo, where he was just like, yeah, the male feminist, the guys who try so hard just to get pussy by trying to pretend to be a feminist. Like, that's what this comes off as. Like, it feels performative. Like, that, it comes off as so performative of being like, actually, she's her own person. Like, actually, she's her own person. She's not just my wife. She's a person, and her name is Gila. Like, that's like rad femme shit that people would instantly find annoying. And he thought that was gonna look great in this. And honestly, I think the only reason why he even resorted to that is because he couldn't come to terms with the fact that, like, Hasan was making a good point that he couldn't contest with. Because, yeah, he did agree with what Hasan was saying, of being like, he did realize what Hasan was saying then, because it has to deal with Hasan being like, even if rapes did happen on October 7th, it would not change my framing on this conflict, because I don't think just because a couple people raped Israelis, that doesn't mean that the entire Palestinian population deserves to be genocided. And even when he saw that clip of Hasan saying that, even Ethan was just like, well, that's understandable. Like, yeah, just because some people did some bad things does not mean that the entire population of that people should be slaughtered, because, you know, there are people who didn't do that and now they're paying the crimes for that. Like, that's what he was saying. But, like, he understood that then, but then he seemingly doesn't now, because he's trying to smear him. So it's just insane. It's just insane, because, like, if you showed anybody that, they would be like, what the fuck? Like, you're getting mad at him calling your wife your wife? That's insane. And, I mean, that's all I really have to say about this. There's a bunch of shit. You know, we could go on for hours. It would probably still be shorter than the actual debate itself, but I think I'm just gonna leave it here. In terms of what I can see, like what I see the future playing out, like it's not going to stop. Ethan is still going to do what he is doing, what he has been doing. That's not going to end. It might get worse, honestly. I feel like his performance in this was so bad that I could honestly just see him spiraling even further. If presuming that he hasn't already hit rock bottom at this point, I guess at this point, you know, rock bottom would literally just have him being a right winger. So I don't know. Maybe we'll see like some departures of some crew members. Honestly, I don't know. But I'm still very iffy on the crew, because some of them I know they're like for this, like they like this. I feel like we're at the point where Dan's just kind of for it now, because honestly, like if you like have seen their dynamic before this whole shit, like Dan and Ethan's dynamic, Dan is not afraid to be antagonistic sometimes, not like in a big bad way, but you know, he's at least from what I've seen when I was a fan of theirs, he wasn't afraid of being a bit like on the opposite side of Ethan every now and again. I remember there was even a time when I was a fan where there was some drama about whether or not like Dan would show up for an episode, because Ethan and him had an argument beforehand on a certain topic. I don't remember what it was, but then they made a big joke about it being like, yeah, he didn't leave. It was just a stupid argument. But like, I feel like with this one, I feel like it would be big enough where if Dan didn't agree to do it, he probably would have left at this point. Zach seems to be the most optimistic outside of Dan on this whole entire issue, in my opinion, at least from what I've seen. He tends to be the one who is way more open to speak about it. Obviously, there's that clip where AB and Olivia essentially just got yelled at, but Ethan hit the button to try to not seem like he was yelling at them. But we already covered that. But even then, AB recently has been having a lot more smoke for people trying to call out his behavior of being like, oh, you're very openly, critical of pro-Palestinian people, or people just saying like, hey, you're working for someone who is like trying to deplatform pro-Palestinian creators. Some of whom you have had connections with yourself. Why do you still work for this dude? Because I honestly believe that AB could honestly go on his own, or at least find someone else to work with to show off his talents. Same with like Dan, even Zach, even if I don't agree with how how willing he has been to jump on this entire smearing campaign. Same with Olivia, even though Olivia isn't like, I don't think Olivia is that open, at least compared to AB, about this shit. But like the fact that he has more smoke for people who are just pointing out the criticisms of being like, hey, you're helping this dude essentially, do all this shit, and you don't seem to really care. At least not enough to be like, hey, I'm out. I'm not gonna continue being a part of this. It's just kind of gross, And I feel like with a lot of this debate, the fact that the crew was as silent as they were, I don't think it was a good sign. Maybe, they were told like, hey, please don't interject. Let's just leave this to me and Hasan. But I've seen other debates of theirs too, like when they brought on the TikTok alpha male boy, other people too, and they weren't like a big part of those debates either. But there would be times where they would even jump in and be like, hey, I got some things to say. But with this one, nothing. And maybe again, it could have been like, hey, just don't interject. It could be because they just didn't feel comfortable, and it could be because some of them might even agree with Hasan's point of view and are just there to do their job. But I'm always like, it's not that I'm mad at the crew, it's just that I'm disappointed. I'm just disappointed, honestly. But yeah, I don't really see this going anywhere. Like I said, I do believe Hasan won, but again, online debates are just team sports anyways. So like, yeah, I was hoping to see Ethan get destroyed, but it's because Ethan's just saying terrible shit. Like this debate was like Hasan versus fucking like anybody else. If it was against like Red and Link, I don't know, I wouldn't really care. But like, yeah, Ethan's been saying heinous shit, not just about Hasan, but just about pro-Palestinian people in general. Like the protesters, the college protesters. He talked shit about them. He talked shit about other creators who have been pro-Palestine. He talked shit about charities for Palestine, and he says he's a pro-Palestine person. So yeah, I was hoping he would get dunked on. I wouldn't even care if it was like Bad Empanada. Like, yeah, I'm kind of like Bad Empanada. I wouldn't say I'm a big fan, but like, yeah, if it was him, I would be rooting for him too. If Destiny was pro-Palestinian, like even with that shit, yeah, I would hope that he would annihilate Ethan. Obviously he's not. Obviously he's not, but yeah, it doesn't matter. Ethan's just been spewing so much shit. Yeah, I just wanted someone to like tear him down, and I think Hasan did quite well at that. And I think Ethan didn't make himself look good by acting out like a child, and I think if you're willingly defending him on this thing, being like, oh yeah, he won, I think that says a lot about you. Not just in how you perceive this conflict as a whole, but also how you perceive just, I guess, internet debates. Because like, there's like a trope of internet debates. It's like, it's not about what you say, it's about how you handle yourself. And that's usually how people perceive winners of online debates anyways. Like, they don't actually care what the person has to say, they just care about how they portray himself. It's why Destiny and people like him, like Vosh, I feel like have been able to stay not popular, but like at least popular within their communities for so long. Not because they're like smart people, they're mostly not in most regards, but just because they come off as being just well-mannered. Like, they're not shouting all the time, they're not, overly emotional, they tend to stay pretty calm, shit like that. It's the same thing with Ben Shapiro. It's why Ben Shapiro was seen as like an intellectual, even though most of the shit he says is dog shit, because he just comes off as like a cool, calm individual, so he has to be saying something right and smart. He's not in a emotional animal just spewing garbage. No, he's calm and collective, so that means he has something good to say. No, he's saying garbage. Ben Shapiro is a dumbass. But again, it's because when it comes to debates, and online debates in particular, it's not about what you say, it's about how you act. But the thing about Ethan Klein is that he did none of those well. He didn't say anything good, he didn't say anything correct, and he didn't handle himself professionally. He came off as like a child. Like, there was a moment during the Ethan Klein XQC debate, if you remember that. It was like on it was about like fair use on YouTube and shit like that. It was like a reaction gate shit. I believe I have an entire video about it, like when I was reacting to it. But there was a moment in that has lived in infamy for years on this platform called the worm moment, where during the debate, the entire debate was like XQC was reacting to other people's content, but not in a way that was transformative and not in a way that was necessarily entertaining enough for him to literally just rip their content and make a video about it. But XQC in that debate was like, I could do the worm on my stream and it would be more entertaining than anything you do. So Ethan said, well then do the worm, and then he did the worm to try to own Ethan Klein. And it was so embarrassing that it has never been able to be let down. Like, he did the worm and thought he looked good doing it. He thought he won the debate after doing that. And there are so many moments from this debate that could literally just be like this versions of that, like this debate's worm moment that Ethan did himself. We had the one where he called Hila a terrorist. We had the one where he just fucking acts out when he thought that Hasan was gonna misspeak or whatever. The one that I showed earlier. And then we have this one. I gotta look it up. I forgot to save it. Where Ethan Klein calls himself a legend, and it is so bad.
That always remember, Hasan, that when people criticize me, I watch it on my stream by myself live, unlike a bitch-made coward like yourself. You need someone to hold your hand, make all the excuses in the world to avoid any single criticism, any response. You, my friend, are a coward, and I am the fucking legend that responded to it live with zero hesitation.
And I am the fucking legend. Oh no. He thought he was gonna look cool. He really thought he ate. Oh no. Ugh, gross. Really gross. I am the fucking legend. Oh my god. That to me was the fucking worm moment. I honestly, like, originally I thought that him calling his own wife a terrorist was the worm moment. No, this is the worm moment. I would even say this is worse, honestly, because at least you could understand where XQC might have been coming off from with that moment of being like, yeah, I'll do this, to think I own him, to think I owned him, to do the worm. I could at least from a person like XQC, I could see why he did that. But for Ethan Klein, who has spent almost the entirety of his YouTube career going after people who were cringy, who have done cringy stuff, to be like, yeah, this would slap. this would go hard. To do this is embarrassing. It is embarrassing. I feel like this would if this was anybody else and not someone who has, been on this platform for over a decade at this point, it would probably ruin their career. Because I feel like the fact that Ethan Klein just has such a rabid fan base at this point, and the fact that he's just been on YouTube for so long that he's just kind of become a mainstay at this point. I feel like if anybody else did that, everybody else would be clowning on them heavily. Like, it would be memeified, it would be everywhere. People would be doing like 1,000 different videos just being like, look at this fucking weirdo. Look at this cringy ass person. But that's all I really gotta say at this point. That I don't think this is gonna go anywhere. I think Ethan's just gonna spiral even further. I remember not that long ago he said he was gonna do another Hasan hit piece, so who knows, maybe we'll see that pop up. Right now, the Ethan iDubbbz thing is looking to go on a round 2 now that iDubbbz made another video about him. So who knows, maybe we're taking a bit of a detour off the Hasan drama slop, and we're going down the iDubbbz drama slop lane. So I don't know. We'll see where that goes. Maybe I'll react to the content deputy next week. Maybe it just depends on if there's any other shit to talk about. But this should be the only video I'm gonna have up this week. I don't know if I'm even gonna really edit all this. Honestly, it's getting pretty late. I've just been really burnt out. Had a lot of shit to do this weekend. So who knows? I'll probably just put this up like this with some editing for the end card. That's it, really. But yeah, this will probably be it. We'll see where this goes. Thank you all for watching.